I'd like to give the microphone to Sergey Kosogor. It's our next speaker. And Sergey, we're going to talk about a very interesting element. We're going to talk about investments in agriculture digitalization. He is a project head on agribusiness digitalization at the Center for Technological Transfer at the Higher School of Economics. Today, I'd like to talk about the investment sector transition to the digital agriculture in the Russian Federation. We all understand perfectly well that now all countries all over the world apply certain efforts in order to move to the digital paradigm of the economy. And here the efforts of the Russian Federation are very important. And I guess such events like ours allow us to align, to see where the countries are, where the Russian Federation is, because we all understand perfectly that digital agriculture is very close, just around the corner. But everyone gonna get there when they'll be able to certain achievements. They will be able to come there with a particular pool of knowledge and achievement. On this slide, you can see the stages of digitalization in agriculture was started quite a long time ago in 1960. And we do know the story that it was private agriculture. There was a public property in agriculture in the Soviet Union. So all the stages that the world came through, and with the private business, it was a little bit faster. In Russia, in the Soviet Union, the program, the efforts that were undertaken by the government, they were not that very successful. And even now in 2021, we do a little bit behind, we have some shortcomings. So the experience of other countries in agri-digitalization is very useful for us. And we can only welcome the efforts that are being undertaken now, particularly by private business, for relaunching the food net in the Russian Federation. We remember perfectly 2014, when the idea was launched to prepare a program for developing digital agriculture, but unfortunately, the idea kind of melted by 2016. And now, upon business initiative, we've returned to this idea, particularly in development of digital economy. And I'm now a member of a working group for preparing a roadmap for the National Technological Initiative. And I'd like to tell you a few words about this. Evaluating the capabilities of the global agriculture market, we believe that by 2035, the market capacity will be $3.5 trillion. And in this context, Russia definitely should state its words so that the products produced here in the Russian Federation will be available on the international food market, and we will be able to offer to the buyers and consumers the well-sought products at the quality and traceability, quality traceability up to the international standard. That is very important. We also understand the macroeconomic trends that generally affect development of agriculture, digitalization, introduction of new technologies. And our colleagues already mentioned some of those trends. I'd like to reiterate them once again. It's the increase of the population, longevity, changing the employment structure, and increasing the income of the population. So, of course, all those trends and challenges, of course, set new tasks for us to satisfy all consumer needs. What are the challenges in Russia? Of course, that's national security, the quality of life, food security, competitive abilities on the global market, and all the steps that will help us to achieve these goals. I'm ready to give them to you. They are on the slides. We believe that the events and measures included in the roadmap, with this roadmap, it would be possible to reach the goals facing the set for the Russian Federation. We identify 5 segments on the food market, which we believe strategically should be well developed by 2035. These include alternative sources, smart supply chains, specialized food, biologized and organic agriculture. We do understand that judging by these conditions of those segments in Russia at the moment, we understand how much work should be done, but we also understand what is already on these markets. And we, in particular, work on overcoming the barriers that hamper development of those segments. I'm not going to go into all details, but if we look at the alternative sources of raw material and food, particularly the barrier is technological dependence. And I believe that such forums like this and the attitudes expressed by our deputy minister and director of our leading agrarian university on establishing interaction, these events in particular contribute to overcoming technological dependence in all lines of development that we identified for improving those segments in order that Russian agribusiness would be stable and have a robust development in order to withstand the challenges that I outlined. Since I have limited time, here is the scale for food net market that we identified, and we understand that there are certain technological achievements and builds up in Russia. Particularly, we have really good agrarian universities, we have good research institutes that are beyond the supervision of the Ministry of Agriculture, but we do understand that following this roadmap, that, by the way, was approved preliminary on the 26th of November, and now the Interdepartmental Commission will approve it. We do understand that the events in this roadmap will enable us to move forward by all these directions, and perhaps we would even be able to accelerate and meet the goals before the deadlines. But we understand that should be a certain system of coordinated work between all the departments involved. Here, we developed a technological radar, that's how we called it, and already there are some technologies which have very strong impact upon agriculture and food production. And it's already now that we should get ready, or we should redevelop, rehabilitate, if I can say. In this radar, we have some technologies that would enable us to moderate weather. And in the Soviet Union, such works had been undertaken, and some of them were quite serious. So sometimes we just have to remember what already was done, just take it out of the shelf and work on this. We should give our agricultural producers particular toolkits to enabling them efficiently use the available resources. What are the measures in support of FoodNet? Of course, training highly qualified specialists is number one. And we believe it should start at secondary schools so that the kids would be get trained, or in the format of agricultural tourism, they will be able, for example, to find out about the modern technologies that are already available, so that they have this idea that agriculture is not some backward, it's not some terrible things like a swamp, it's a really highly technologically developed sector which is keen to employ state-of-the-art technologies. And according to the analysis of the High School of Economics, there are already a lot of digital solutions available, particularly thanks to those technological projects that was started in 2006, and it enabled us to re-equip and get access to the top products on the market. That's one point. The other point is that now the technologies are rapidly advancing, and there are Russian companies present on the market who offer affordable solutions, integrated solutions. It is possible to buy not just the entire solution or platform that will be very well developed, very expensive, but just an element of it, which later would be integrated when a company or a farm is ready for this financially. So this also should be supported, and at least now when we're talking about organics developing this particular sector, we have an issue with the regulatory and legal framework, which can give a good boost and it can shape development of this segment. So we do need to accelerate in that field, and we need to develop all the regulatory mechanisms and tools that would enable our producers to operate successfully on the biologically clean products. Well, now we're talking about the draft law on the products with augmented qualities. So to this purpose, we need to have a really good legal field. In our opinion, High School of Economics, as a result of particular implemented food network in particular digital agriculture, you can see on the right that would be able to get information as what is really happening in agriculture. Everything should be transparent, and they would be able to forecast and plan sector development. As for producers, again, they have their own advantages in terms of various aspects and ability to bring their products to marketplace, have various protection means, improve their reporting, got soft loans just through one click. So this platform in its entirety should be, in our opinion, the result of agriculture digitalization, which does not exclude, of course, presence of private solutions on the market that perhaps can be at some point integrated, and or would enable some pinpointed work following the guidelines. And I believe it will be possible in particular through entering in the solution catalogs that the Ministry of Agriculture is now attempting to do on this platform, when consumers, just through one click, get into one platform, the consumer will be able to get the full range of information, all the resources, dig this information in order to base their best solution on it. What's the reason? Why do they need it for? Well, there are lots of aspects. For example, Rostilmash is putting efforts in digitalization straight away on the conveyor. All the machinery should be equipped with all these digital devices, and it's important for the producers to understand how a particular element works, and they will be able to calculate all different parameters like fuel spending, etc. This is in-field work when we need to count the diseases or lack of moisture in the soil, etc., etc., etc. Digital solutions should be very instrumental in this, in order that our producers feel confident and can really trust, be sure that their solution is correct. So a lot of effort should be done here, that we would build up the platform and build up integration and interrelations, tie up all those solutions that are available on the market in order to optimize process control. And now we have like a loop, digital solutions that are really interrelated, they are interconnected, and they can supply the necessary information solution for the producers, enabling efficient decision making. Reason being, there are lots of benefits, being cost effective in terms of resource spending, increase the speed of reacting to the market demand, short idea to market time, etc., etc. I can't really not mention here the situation with the COVID. We do understand the situation, and all solution that we can offer obviously would be very helpful in overcoming the challenges that are related to the pandemic. We're all waiting when the pandemic is over, but looking at the COVID trends in the world, in 2020, here's the situation on the slide with the breakdown by countries. You can see what the situation in BRICS in November in Russia, and we do understand that digitalization really helped to overcome some negative consequences related to COVID. But obviously COVID affected it, that's no question. You do understand that COVID just destroyed some chains, particularly not only agricultural supply chain, but other product supply chain in Russia, in the regions, because some regions had to close during quarantine. So here, employing digital capabilities would enable us to minimize the impact of such pandemics on sectoral development, product sale, and satisfying consumer needs. We also should stress that in the context of the pandemic influence, we should especially look at the marketplace responsible for product delivery. Look at the marketplace that in 2021 were involved in food supply chain product delivery. And the main trend, according to the World Bank, is to control traceability of the products. First of all, grain, beef, and pork. And everyone understands that one of the issues because of the pandemic is the shortage of products and the need to how to feed the population under the lockdown conditions. So that is why the trends set by the government to regulate grain movement and the duty for grain. This is the logic which we can see all over the world, building up this food supply chains for grain, meat, etc. I'm not that optimistic. I just wanted to understand what is the logic of those restrictions that we're now discussing. And perhaps with figures would be help to give us an insight and answer a lot of questions. Also, because the pandemic heavily affected these chains, we have to look at the production, particularly organic, due to vertical structures. Because under those conditions, it is still possible to produce kind of high quality products because it's getting closer to the consumers. There is no need to move it across regions and countries. And this trend definitely should be supported and developed, particularly when we talk about the future of the Russian situations. For example, this is ecological, this is safe, this is very cost effective, really speedy payback, particularly during the pandemic when we very quickly can deliver the products to consumers, this vertical farm. And here you can see the figures for 2020, that's the market of the Russian Federation. In terms of organic, we can say that we have pretty good prospects in this area. We just need to improve the regulations in this field because we do need to have to be a player really on this market to be able to produce such products and supply it. But in order to make sure that all those digital solutions that are particularly developed under the frame of the roadmap and development of rural area, lots and lots of other program documents, to make it really workable, to make sure that our producers go for digital solutions, we really need to look at the issues with the infrastructure. Here's the telecommunication map of the Russian Federation. Look at the average figure. 1.6, of course, Moscow and St. Petersburg are way ahead. But if you look what is below 6.1, look, these are the regions that have very low figures that are traditionally agricultural. So to make sure that the consumers shift their preferences towards different digital technologies, they should be convinced, they should be well equipped with the understanding that all this is going to work. And the embedded functionality and mechanism would be very robust and would help them. So we have to look at the infrastructure in order to speed up digitalization and change the situation from what it is now. And it's exactly what Pavel Valerievich said. Yes, there is an order now concerning digitalization, and there should be a particular regional project in the regions, and some grants would be offered by the governmental agencies. So all together, that can help us to accelerate digitalization of agribusiness. On this slide, it's an illustration that we are truly a little bit behind. We do introduce some cloud services, which is more difficult, however, for large enterprises that are also involved in processing. But again, looking into the state-of-the-art cutting-edge technologies, yes, we're still behind lots of other sectors and we need to make sure that digitalization is there, digitalization work. And I'd like to mention a particular business that is ready to actively participate in the roadmap. The roadmap is being developed with support of the Ministry of Trade and Industry. which heavily influenced digitalization. And recently, Digital Agro Company was founded. It is one of successful platforms that offers the functionalities for producers, for use of land, particularly measures of support in terms of reporting, guidelines for use of land areas, particularly through collaboration with other companies and service centers. Here is the presence of the company with service centers that would be able to offer particular toolkits for the producers. This definitely should be welcome because such connections between the state and private business should be able to accelerate digitalization of the agribusiness in Russia. At the same time, the government, which is trying to shape those institutions, will also pay attention. Perhaps we can discuss with Alexander that you gave different figures. Alexander said 4.7 was spent in innovation. So this figure is a little bit under discussions in 2020. The figure went down a little bit. And anyway, Russia is really losing here. And a lot of countries pay attention to innovations in agriculture and invest heavily, particularly through different funds. Look here, our foreign partners are way ahead of us in this context. Even India, Brazil, Australia, they are all ahead of us. In Russian Federation, we can have really great achievements like we have Sputnik V vaccine, but if we want to claim for our position to be able to supply high-quality organic products attractive for consumers, we should really put robust efforts in this field and offer solutions which will be clear and understandable abroad, that will be traceable, and most important, there would be clear answers from what it is produced so that consumers are confident and are ready to consume this product. We also should pay attention to development of robotics, and our company should think heavily about it because our foreign partners are already actively involved in this, using, for example, various mechanical means, lasers, etc., etc. In Russia, we can give some examples from Michulinsky agro-universities that are now testing robots in their greenhouses, but it's just a small drop in the ocean. It's the very beginning of this trajectory. And again, in quite a number of parameters, we're very well behind our foreign partners. So we have to think carefully what we'll be able to offer when we say that there is an agribusiness digitalization all over the world. They've eyed this in this agriculture 4.0, and our investors in our agriculture sector, we are well behind. So we find ourselves in a situation that it's a foreign equipment and foreign machinery as working in our fields and not our domestic products. And they want organic products in foreign packaging rather than being able to offer something. So these are the range of issues that I wanted to mention today. Dear colleagues, if there are any questions, I'm ready to answer. Thank you so much, Sergey. Really, it's a very interesting talk. I wish you all the better.